Welcome to the TeacherZone with Chris and Tyler. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good, Tyler. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. And we have a special guest with us today, Dr. Clint Haycraft from Los Rios Rock School. How you
Clint.
doing?
Hey.
So what's really exciting about our episode today is Dr. Haycraft is going to talk all about school accreditation. So if you've been kind of wondering, for your private music school, how you get accredited, today we're going to explore all the things that Clint went through to get our Los Rios Rock School accredited.
Yes.
Man,
Awesome.
a few words. Love it.
Well, I have a fun story to get us started. So, what, about 2 years ago? Was that when this went down? So I get a call from a very good friend's brother, Dr. Clint Haycraft, and he had heard about Los Rios Rock School, which is Chris and my music school, and we've been doing a lot of performances, as a lot of you in the audience already know. And he came in, and he was, you were about a few months away from finishing your dissertation for your PhD, correct?
That's right.
And Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, New York.
University of Buffalo.
And we had lunch together, and he mentioned, and I'll let you kind of finish up, but he mentioned, how about, I've heard a lot about your school. It seems amazing. He came and took a tour. I explained how from the private lessons to the mentorship to the community aspect to the rehearsals to the shows and how to grow it and how exciting it was, and he loved it. He loved that everything was executed and that they were project based and it was always something was always happening. So, and then he brought something to the table while we were having lunch, and why don't I let you take it from there? What you thought would be interesting to add to Los Rios Rock School, the music school.
All right, well, just a little background about me. I'm a rock musician first, but I got involved in academic music by studying music at academic institutions. So I was always kind of one foot in the rock world and one foot in this kind of higher education, classical music-based world, and never felt completely at home in either for a while. But I think having spent maybe 10 years in higher education, I felt more comfortable in the rock world. I was always moonlighting as a rock musician, so obviously the rock school appealed to me quite a bit. And like Tyler said, I was really into what he was doing, how he was executing it. It seemed very genuine, very fast-moving, as opposed to the kind of slow-moving bureaucracy you kind of get in higher education. So it was very appealing to me. And to solidify my niche, that my selling myself to my potential employer, I decided that I was going to have something to offer, and that was the accreditation process.
Especially since I paid for lunch.
It was an excellent lunch.
So
Sun-dried tomato right here in
Hey.
San Juan Capistrano, California.
Yeah, I love sun-dried tomato. Easy plug. So you brought something that came to my mind. If you're a school and you're doing, contemporary rock music, we have schools kind of doing everything. Whether we have some schools just teaching ukulele, some all sorts of different things. But for our classical music schools, that's traditionally what you would think of with credits. But you're actually kind of turning that on its head with our school, which to me is sort of proof that you're legitimizing all music learning. And so I'm curious, number one, why would a school want to be accredited? And number two, does it matter what type of school you are?
Well, no, it doesn't matter. Accreditation can be used as a tool to get various things done, right? I can only talk about today what it did for Los Rios Rock School. And it all started for me with AP Music Theory, Advanced Placement Music Theory, which I came to know through my students at the University of Buffalo. I was teaching theory at the university level there, and there were certain students who were way more advanced than others. And I asked them, how come you guys know this stuff so well? And they all said, we took AP Music Theory in high school. So it gave them a distinct advantage over the other students. And
For the academia world, for moving up and, okay.
Yes. So my mission at Los Rios was kind of, and my obsession a little bit, was to teach AP Music Theory and get the school accredited so that could count towards the college of those kids who wanted to move on in music or otherwise, any subject.
So if a school's accredited and every state's different, is that right?
Yeah, our accreditation is through what's called WASC, and I'm now a principal
Tyler
of Los Rios Rock School in the state of California and Hawaii.
Yes.
Nice.
Hawaii also recognizes
That's the
me as a
reciprocal
principal.
state. That's great.
So that's where I'll be going next. But anyway, get into. I know you have a couple of really good points. So
So the second question
We-
was, it doesn't matter what type of school, correct?
No, I
get
get
accreditation.
Okay, so there are a number of categories that you can choose from on the Western Association of Schools and Colleges (WASC)
Okay.
website. And for us, we chose the supplementary education program category
Right.
because that was best for us. We are specialized. We're an after-school program.
Right. And that's when you and I talked. I was like, well, you know what? One of my vocal students was part of the Natador divers in the high dive crew in Mission Viejo, and she didn't have to take PE at high school. And that's what went off in my head at first, because I don't know higher education and accreditation or anything, but I knew she was getting PE somehow from a place that wasn't on site. And so that's where I started to connect the dots from an entrepreneur and business growth side. And it felt like there's got to be a way to connect it. And then that's when we really started to take off. And we kind of put the cart before the horse.
Yeah, we learned everything by doing it wrong, and then learning what the right way was. And
I call that failing up.
Yeah. Failing forward.
Yeah, there you go.
So I didn't even think about high schools, to be honest. I was geared towards college, and I wanted that to count towards college, that AP course. But through this process, I found out that the relationship we have with high schools, local high schools, is way more important than with colleges. Well, it's a chain, right? We're all geared towards getting stuff to count. Even when you're collaborating with high school institutions, you want it to count towards their transcripts, which goes to college, right? So I can go into more depth about this stuff.
Yeah, I think we've talked
like.
to a lot of our friends all across the U.S. and Canada that have schools, and everybody's pretty intrigued by this topic because it's something that for a lot of us that were more entrepreneurial in the school side, not necessarily came to owning a school as an academic. This brings a whole new thing for a lot of folks.
Right.
So.
And then we got to kind of, for the folks listening out there and watching, and by the way, if you know any music school owners or teachers, music teachers at all, just get them in contact with this podcast, tzpodcast.com or teacherzone.com, and have them reach out. We have a lot of really good tips, but we do need to discuss what kind of schools there are. Like, for instance, in 2010, I was a school, it looked like this. It was my 1,000 square foot house.
Right.
So and then we've grown to 200 students and so 10 teachers and the whole thing, and now we're accredited. But how can we have these different types of schools that we're now talking to on a daily basis for TeacherZone.com? By the way, this podcast is brought to you by TeacherZone.com. It's a learning management system, first of its kind, by music schools, for music schools and music teachers to run your whole teaching business, your whole teaching life. So therefore, we have now some credibility and say we've talked to schools in 50 states and Canada. And so therefore, how does this accreditation, how do you feel credible enough to maybe become accredited? Like when does a school's identity feel like when should they reach out? When should they ask for help? Should they put a Craigslist ad and say, hey, is there any more PhDs graduating from Buffalo? Can you come talk to us? How could we talk on a bigger scope using our experience and maybe help people reach out and maybe grow as well?
Well, Tyler, I don't want to let go, but you don't need a PhD in order to do this.
What?
He didn't. Now he tells us.
Dude.
Gotcha.
You don't know if I have a PhD or not.
So, all right. So step one.
So let me just say, I want to kind of maybe demystify accreditation today.
Okay, good.
Which we're still demystifying ourselves as we get more and more approved with the school districts in Orange County, California.
So when you had the school going in your house, you could have started the process then. And WASC or any other kind of accreditation institution might have, well, hopefully they're all as easy to deal with as WASC. I don't know. I will only speak from the experience of dealing with WASC, but they send somebody out to help you through the accreditation process. They help you set goals. They help you assess where your school's at. They might have done that at your house and said, hey, Tyler, you thinking about getting another space?
Right.
This is your house.
Or they might have said, let us know when you have a space.
Right.
Or whatnot.
So
honestly, we don't even know the answer to that.
Maybe they would have said, okay.
In-home license, good enough.
Sure.
In-home business license, good enough.
So it sounds like with step one, by reaching out and starting the process, that a lot of the accreditation boards, at least we know for sure in California, they actually help you with whatever it is that's required.
because they want your $925 a year. Which is cool. It's totally worth it. But it took a little doing to get it done. So I guess step one would be reach out to your local high schools or junior highs or anybody that's accredited and say, who are you accredited with? What are they called in your state?
Yes, most websites will show who accredits all your local
right.
institutions.
Then you go to their website. You Google that name, go to their website, call the number, and they'll probably be more than happy to know, especially, I don't know what it's like out in your states, but in Southern California, we have a few cool music programs in some of the high schools, but not like 20, 30 years ago. And so it was very inviting to the doctors and the PhDs at WASC to hear that we were doing such a music-based supplemental school that was so thoroughly music and performance. They were very excited about it. So you might get a big interest from your accreditation places in your states.
Well, you figure with all the budget cuts and everything, the hyper-focused private institutions like ours, the private music schools, are really providing a needed thing. And so that's
and this could tip the scales between TeacherZone.com, this cloud-based learning management system that's going to change music education forever, which we created. Chris and I created that. As we move forward 5 years from now, if everybody gets on board with this, hey, I can think a little bigger for my school, which immediately thinks bigger for your community, which immediately, if you come from the right place, you get support from that community in droves, then maybe at some point through attraction, the school districts plus the affordability of the software or whatever it is 5 years from now, maybe they'll be like, oh, we need a chunk of, we need that. And maybe it will meet again
and interconnect. Yeah. So we kind of have a vision of interconnecting all of us private instructors and private music schools, and then using our might to really help all the students globally through the public institutions.
And Dr. Haycraft, I have to thank you. Our vision's always been big, but without your little element you've added, it might not have been as big. So
it sort of connects the dots. It's very
awesome.
Cool. Very cool. So the step one obviously is reaching out. Now this process didn't happen overnight. So after you reached out, what are some of the hoops that you had to jump through to actually, on the path to accreditation?
Well, going back to the categories for the school accreditation, I had to determine which one was the best for us before I started the process. And there are categories like the full accreditation, which is for like a K through 12 school that does all subjects, does testing, a school basically. And then there's some like the supplementary education program, which is like ours, an after-school program that deals in maybe a handful of subjects, specialized school. And then there are a couple other categories of which I don't know a lot about because I immediately found out which one was good for us and pursued that one.
Right. Which will probably fit many of our schools that we talk to through TeacherZone as well, because they're mostly after-school situations. They're not really doing academia during the day. Or like that.
I'm just curious, what would be some other supplemental, sports? Tyler mentioned sports.
Sports is one of them. Okay. The person who helped us through our accreditation process talked about language programs.
Sure.
So things like
Very
that.
Cool.
And to catch you guys up, the most recent stride that we've made is a really, really good guy that, again, Dr. Haycraft connected with, Neil Anderson, correct?
Yes, I'm not sure if we can talk about him, but
yeah,
we just did, so that's him.
I can do whatever I want.
Yes, he's the visual and performing arts coordinator for the Capistrano Unified School District.
And we won't get into the details, but remember, if the divers are getting PE credit and our Performance Academy has such a good
reputation.
Yeah, reputation. And our softwares and our live scans and everything that we keep track of from security to curriculum is it's so much more thoroughly tracked through TeacherZone.
Right.
Then why in the heck does their tuition that they pay not give them an elective credit? That was my big question.
That's what we're working towards.
Yep, and so far it's looking really good, and we'll keep you guys posted on that. And as soon as that's done, our goal is if there's a kid at our school, he should be getting credit.
Yeah, so to clarify, that's what Tyler means. What we're working towards, so Clint, you've basically made it so that at first it was the courses. It was the AP music.
We were thinking it was class-based.
Right. So that is initially, so for those of you considering it, that's one route you can go. It's actually made us sort of turn and go down another path, which is more of an overall mindset.
Right. Think of theater. Think of drama. Think of
Film and video.
Yeah. Any of those things that are getting elective credits in junior high and high school, they're learning their lines. They're learning about diction. They're learning all of this stuff. And then they have to go to rehearsals. They have to get it down. They got to know their marks. Then they got to do dress rehearsal. And then they got to execute the actual show or shows. And their grades are all based off of that process. And it's college. And colleges count that as an elective. So we do all that. So if you're a school that's not doing all of that, it's okay. There's still other linear ways to track progress. And that's why TeacherZone is going to be so great with the badges and the assigned and completions of courses that the software does. It's like a no-brainer accreditation as long as you have goals set and they're executing them from semester to semester or from year to year. You can kind of almost set it yourself, and they're progressing. And you're setting new goals constantly, and you're enriching that kid's life somehow also on paper.
Right.
That's all they're looking for.
Well, go ahead, Clint.
If you guys would permit me, I'll just talk about the application process really quick, and
Sure.
I think it'll make this stuff very clear.
Perfect.
So the step two, after reaching out and picking, I guess step one would be reaching out. Step two would be choosing the category. Step three would be an initial assessment report, and it's just a kind of inventory of what your school is like, what it does, how it's doing things, and maybe what it would like to improve on. And there are all these very guided questions in the application, like the legal status, the governance and leadership of your school, the educational services, how you use your performance results, the resources that you have available for you, the organizational climate, improvement planning. So you go through all these categories and you answer questions. Are these specific things fully met or not yet fully met? And they encourage you to be honest, brutally honest.
Yeah.
It's okay to not have all the categories fully met, because the next step is to assess that inventory and say, okay, what can we improve on? And they guide you through this process. So even, one of the benefits in accreditation itself is that they kind of help you assess where you're at with your school and what you can improve on. So that's helpful in itself.
They're also starting to recognize how technology is changing and things as well. They're not as fast as others, but they get it, and they see that they remember WASP changed their whole process right on the cusp of us getting approved,
right. Yeah.
because they understand that not only do we as schools that are not in the know need a little coaching, but technology and culture changes.
Well, yeah, there's a Peter Drucker. There's a quote that people often say: "If you don't measure it, you can't improve." And I think that that's the real important distinction, because you mentioned even when, where's your schoolhouse, Tyler?
Isn't it?
Even
It's
when,
nice.
if you're just, teaching out of your house, so there's a little, okay. The good part about it is that by creating this process, by finding out what you don't have, it creates some of the metrics and some of the things, the systems in place to allow you to become legitimate.
Right. Oh, I'm going to let you keep going, but that just happened in our staff meeting at Los Rios Rock School. You were quiet the whole meeting too.
I tend to be kind of
Yeah,
quiet.
and it's shh. We don't know why. Shh. So
I work with high energy people.
high energy. I'm so high energy. You've got to be
That's
high
an
energy.
understatement.
Yeah. So we were talking the staff meeting at Los Rios Rock School, about 8 teachers, and we have some big shows coming up. In fact, tomorrow night at the Yost Theater in Santa Ana, we are performing. I might as well plug
Yeah,
it.
it's gonna be great.
The Los Rios Rock School advanced audition albums. It's the classic album series, and you may have seen it, the Fleetwood Mac songs on 93.5, KX 93.5 yesterday. Our kids are doing Fleetwood Mac Rumors in its entirety, track for track, and then Van Halen 1, track for track in its entirety tomorrow night. So come
gonna
on
be
out.
awesome.
It's $15,
It's gonna be great.
$20 at the door, the Yost Theater in Santa Ana, California,
Yeah.
Orange County. So while we were talking about that, that's a big endeavor. Plus, we have all the Jam 101 and 102 kids opening. So we had a lot with the staff meeting was necessary. But then we started to talk about next semester, because the semester changes, and we have our fantasy student musician pick, and we have to get the new kids ready to come in, make sure they're placed right, and see if anybody else needs to move up and things like that. And it's starting to get crazy because we have 160 of them now doing rehearsals and playing and picking songs and all of that. So we have these new 101ers that are going to be brand new 101ers, and the teachers themselves brought up, you know what, we need to put 3-song courses that prove that they're ready for Jam 101, that their teachers can do in their 101 lessons. The software has the lesson curated already, and what is it, Weezer, Island in the Sun, some basic ones. What were
Boulevard of Broken Dreams
Boulevard
by Green Day.
And what was the third one?
Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground.
So what was cool is, as the co-owner of TeacherZone.com and the founder and co-owner of Los Rios Rock School, I'm sitting there, and it's interesting to watch the culture of the software get traction. And right in front of me, I got to watch our directors and you, and that's when I was like, Mr. Director of Curriculum, can we go ahead and get that done? And but the teachers brought it up. We've gotten so big and busy that we needed it. And so now they're curating level 1 courses, then level 2 for 102, Jam 102, which will be 120 beats per minute, pentatonic scale. So if you want to play lead, whatever, it's going to all be curated and evergreen content for life. Now we have a stair step, and now the kids even know what it is. So now the teachers can set the goals and go, you know what? I think you can get this 101 song down. And if the kid's like, cool, well, how do you get into 102? Oh, well, just search it. Go check it out.
Can you play that?
And if he comes back and does 102, who are we to decide? We don't hold him back because of age at Los Rios Rock School. If you can play it, you can play it. It's
Well, and the more you systematize things, the more clear it is for the students, so they can actually push themselves to rise to
and
those
before
levels.
This is nothing new, by the way. For all of you music teachers out there that think like, I already do that, we know and we love you for it. But I would have had to write it all down and record it and email it to them or their parents.
Not
to get
have
it
a
to
system
them.
to send
Yeah,
it.
now the kids just log in at home. It's already assigned by their teacher. This videos pop up, walk through them, teach them everything. It's their teacher doing it or a teacher from their school. And then they show up at their next lesson and try it out. And if they pass it, click, we check it, it's passed, good to go.
So to bring it back to the accreditation talk, what I think is important is, Tyler, you said something pretty interesting. You talked about a semester. I don't think we would have said that 2 years ago.
No.
So
it's turning itself into that.
Yeah, because we're starting to think along the lines of chunks, right? So
and remember,
a trimester in our case.
What he means is we started raw. It was me and 33 kids in a little tiny house, and we had a hay bale stage.
So if you just graduated and you're starting your music teaching business, just know that many of us start here.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
But anyways, because we now have a system and because we now are accredited, it's forced us to think in terms of a trimester system. How important is the measurement side or the metrics to the accredited to the board?
It's important. One thing that WASC is really adamant about in all areas is data collection. So a semester lends itself to assessment and data collection. It's a fixed time period in which you can measure how the student is improved and the goals they can set for the next semester. I don't think Los Rios was actually too far off from a semester system. It was on a concert cycle system.
Right.
And they actually line up pretty well. I mean, it's a question of, is there 2 or 3 concerts a year, big concerts a year? There's 2 or 3 semesters a year usually in an academic institution. So it's not like
so
big change.
Most of you are actually already doing either concerts, recitals, shows, whatever you call it, on a cycle. And so what Clint's saying is that cycle just becomes, to an accreditation board, your semester or trimester.
So let me go on about, if it's all right, I'd like to talk about the next thing that happens. Once you do that assessment, you come up with an action plan and a timeline for how you set some goals for the school.
Love it.
And you set a fixed timeline in which you're hopefully going to get those things done. If it's all right with you, I'll just share the 3 that we picked.
Sure.
So number 1 was to improve data collection and reporting methods. And this was kind of a perfect storm for me to walk in and do accreditation for Los Rios, because TeacherZone.com was solidifying as a robust data collection and music learning system. So it made it very, very easy. And the goal number 2 was, and by the way, the accreditation, every one of these schools uses a learning management system anyway. Any high school, any junior high even now, has some kind of learning
commonplace.
system.
It's just
and
the
the parents can log in.
Why aren't music schools using them?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So number 2 was to create a robust and effective human resources department. And number 3 was to formalize the school's approach to emergency situations. Really, number 1 is the biggest deal. It was the only one I felt really obliged to do.
Repeat that one.
Improve data
Improve
collection.
the data collection and reporting methods. And that has to do with assessment. It means we need to decide how we grade the students.
If they're there or not.
Yes,
Yeah.
Attendance,
right.
Exactly.
Right.
And
And reports that show it. If we need to pull it, it's there.
When I wrote the report, TeacherZone.com was about to do all those things. Now it does all those things.
Right.
So,
and more.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
a lot more. So it's kind of like a fully integrated music learning system, and it makes the accreditation process very, very easy.
But now, one of the things we don't do in TeacherZone, but that was important, I think, to our school is, as far as data collection, is the reviews. Being able to doing consistent reviews. So are you guys out there doing consistent reviews with your students?
We just set ours for now until TeacherZone does this, which it will down the road, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We use Google Drive, Google Docs. You created a form. Well, we had a form, but you made it better. And every quarter, we do an interview with the student, and we go down. Are you practicing? Are we leaving anything undone? Do you feel like you're getting better at your instrument? Like, we literally have a 10-minute interview with them, and then the teachers get to put their own notes on the bottom, and it's submitted to Dr. Haycraft, and all of our teachers are doing that, because if we don't pull our covers with these young minds and hearts, they will look to us like we're doing what we're supposed to do because they love us so much as a teacher, and they might not be as outspoken as another kid. And it really allows us to create a relationship and a language to them that they know it's okay to approach us and say, you know what, Clint, I'm just sick of sitting with you by myself. I want to go learn
I get that all the
drums."
time. I just throw those reports away.
And so, but you never know. Every now and then we found out that, little Josh, he wanted to do drums. And he's a ripping little guitar player at like 11 years old, 12 years old. And we found out he learned drums, basic to intermediate drum beats in 2 weeks. But he didn't speak up for a couple of months because we keep him busy. But we want to know that. You as schools out there should be asking what's up. And I know a lot of you teachers are doing it. But if a school owner isn't connected to their culture in a simple way, and you can't, trust me, I've tried as the owner, walk around and say, hey, everybody, I need these reports because I want to know what's going on with all the families, all the kids, and I need to know now so I can take the temperature of the school. And everybody's like in the middle of getting ready for shows, and they're like, okay, that's no fair.
Got to have it as a system.
That's no fair.
Right.
So now we just have a set time. Everybody knows they're coming, and it's a fun chance to get to talk to your kids.
Well, you made me think about the idea that we're all kind of on this mission to help students play more music. And so all over the world, we want more people to play more music. And the big part of playing music is, you want to be able to play with other people, which means you have to be at a certain level. And there's a book out there that if you guys haven't read, it's called Talent is Overrated. It's by Jeff Colvin. I just looked it up. It's GEOFF COLVIN. And it's a great book. And what it talks about basically is there's a lot of misconceptions about talent, right? And then talent really comes not just from practice, not just from the 10,000 hours, but it comes from deliberate practice. And deliberate practice comes from having a system.
That's funny. I have not read that book, but I use that phrase all the time.
You do?
By the way, we'll
nice.
put the link to this book in the notes of the podcast. So if you guys want to look there.
And I followed up with discipline and dedication are what's necessary to make it in something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what they showed is that
I just got espresso and brought it to the kids and
Espresso
drank
can help
espresso with them because I built all of this on 8 shots of espresso a day from Hidden House Coffee. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben. So what's great about this mindset of constantly pushing our instructors or pushing our students to get better is that we're helping them to actually grow in their playing, which means more music gets played, which is, I think, most of our mission. It's why most of us got into this. So what's neat is it kind of circles back. This accreditation for some of you might seem a little heady and boring or what that, but at the end of the day,
we're getting way more students signing up now just because they're catching wind of it.
Right.
We don't even we're allowed to put the WASC accreditation embosser and the logo and we can get banners and we can put them everywhere if we want. We haven't even started doing that, and we might on our website or whatever, and we're still getting more students because they're catching wind that we're taking it to the next level.
It legitimizes everything. Remember, I was up at Stanford. I was up in Palo Alto recently, and I just kind of walked around Stanford, and it's a giant campus if you haven't been there. And I noticed they had a huge WASC accredited banner. And I was laughing, and I texted you guys, and I'm like, hey, look, Stanford's showing off the same accreditation that we have. How cool is that? And to families, if we want to grow our music studios or we want to grow as teachers, they're looking for trust points. And being accredited is like the most trustworthy thing you could probably be.
It's definitely one of the things. Well, it's one of the trustworthy things that a lot of people assume on paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so much more trust, as you guys know, with the families and the kids and getting to know them, and live scans and drug tests, and if depending on how tight you want to get and how amazing of a place you want to and safe of a place you want to make it. But that'll be for another episode. We know all sorts of great tricks when it comes to that stuff.
Well, let's a future episode, we're going to have a specialist on that's going to talk about really security and making sure that we're keeping our environment the safest it can be for our students.
Because we now have 8 and 9-year-old kids, some of them, not all of them, depending on their environment at home, walking around with supercomputers that are attached to the internet and Snapchat and direct messages on Instagram all the time. 8 and 9 years old. Now, on the good side, they're metronomes on their phone. They're guitar tuners on their phone.
They have
TeacherZone.com's on their phone for their lesson. There's all sorts of great things, but as parents and music school owners and teachers should know, and we'll get into that in that episode, but, don't have your teachers sending direct messages to 15-year-old girls or boys.
Yeah, we'll talk about crisis management before a crisis.
And we have a solution for that too. TeacherZone.com absolutely has that solution.
Yeah, it's
built in.
Really helpful for making sure that everything's measured and that you know who's where, when, and communication and all that.
So
I wanted to get back
finish
to
up here.
We were talking about assessment methods. We talked about TeacherZone.com collecting a bunch of data. And then we talked about the roster reviews, which we do 2 to 3 times a year, basically during a concert cycle at Los Rios. And we're constantly increasing the number of ways that we collect data. We also we're in the works of making like a performance jury system where we're videoing all the concerts at Los Rios now. So a lot of the instructors, it's a small company, so a lot of the instructors are busy during those concerts. They can't assess every single student. So that we have this backlog of videos, and we can assess after the fact.
This was the year of the video and audio breakthrough for Los Rios Rock School. Many times have we failed. And there may or may not have been a handy camera broken on the front lawn of my house one year because it didn't work out. It's foggy, but we figured it out. So now we get all the tracks, we mix them, we edit them into a video. It is a little bit of work, but we have every single performance in every track, and we can literally, if we're grading the guitarist on a song, it's there.
By the way, WASC doesn't dictate how you assess data.
That's just us. We just want to do that.
They encourage you to think outside the box of new ways to collect data and what's important data to collect. All they do is encourage you to kind of organize it and make sure that you're collecting it consistently. That's it.
That's important to say because this is all about us mind sharing with everyone out there. So if you've got some really neat ways that you collect data that you think make an impact at your school, please share that with us.
Oh, can you tell them how to get in contact with us?
Yes, you can email us at, podcast@teacherzone.com. You can also go to tzpodcast.com and sign up for our podcasts. We have online forums there, so if you're a music school or music teacher, it's just for music instructors and schools.
And you can reach out directly through teacherzone.com, too, if you're a music teacher or a music school as well.
Yeah. So
the next thing I wanted to emphasize is step 1 is the most important thing. that's reaching out, and that's like starting the process.
Right.
It really doesn't matter. You might find that you're not ready for it. You might find that you're already ready for it. Who cares? Just start it. And I can't stress enough how important it is to keep reaching out, although it is kind of discouraging. I've sent a lot of emails that have been ignored or outright kind of dissed in a way, because schools are not used to talking to each other. It's very interesting. Like, I've reached out to a ton of private schools about certain things.
By the way, music schools are not used to talking to each other either.
I believe you.
Right.
But what we're finding with our, we're approaching 100 schools logged in and using TeacherZone.com right now, and some of them are very near to our school, and we've become great friends with them.
Yeah.
We're even sending students to them that don't quite fit our culture but fits theirs perfectly. Danny at Music Factory just had a
we had him on
5-year-old sign up. He was our guest last week. And so we need to break down that wall. Like, everybody's trying to hide stuff, but in reality, if they need to go down the street, there's a reason.
Well, either if you're in public or private education, it is a business, and people do perceive it as a threat sometimes when you're like, hey, let's work together or something. But it pays off. That's what I wanted to say. A couple of the people that I've made contact with through this process, I don't know if I can say their names. I'm just going to do it. Dr. Brandenburg at WASC.
He's awesome.
Very helpful.
Fantastic.
Very encouraging, and gave us a lot of ideas about how to move forward. And
We
then-
almost gave him his own office. That day he was proctoring the school and interviewing the families. We should have just got him a chair and a desk. He hung out all day.
He loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
And then Neil Anderson, the Visual and Performing Arts Coordinator at Capistrano Unified, he has been the best ally in figuring this thing out. And actually, since I've started a dialogue with him, I have reached the goal of getting AP Music Theory to count towards the transcripts of the local public high schools.
Right.
Which is a huge step.
I got to sign.
Principal Tyler.
We got to sign our first
Yeah,
transcript.
we're making transcripts now.
And it's so cool. There's this stampy
Pump,
embosser,
yeah.
and you can feel it. It's nice.
Legitimate.
I like it.
But beyond that was just the first step. I mean, that was a big one for me because, like I said,
Are you
that was
laughing
my
at me?
No.
I heard you giggle.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh at you all the time. I'm laughing with you, Tyler. Laughing with you.
I love you, Clint.
I love you too.
Hey, Julia, are you watching? Clint just had a baby girl.
Yay.
Amelia Love. How old is she? How many days is she now? Or is it a
Oh.
month? Or
Almost 2 months.
almost 2 months
Yeah.
already? I
Wow.
haven't held your baby yet. Anyways,
We'll fix that.
we love babies.
They grow fast.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
Enjoy this period.
So,
So-
furthermore,
Yeah.
we've started the process because, like you said, you brought up the divers, right? Why do they get their stuff?
The
to count?
divers?
The
The
local
matadors.
Yeah,
Matadors,
right, the diving team.
So why do they get their stuff to count towards their high school transcripts and not music schools? Well, that's what we're fixing.
Right.
And Neil is working with us to get all of our stuff, all of our live
Yeah.
performance program to count towards their transcripts. And why not? Right? They're spending the time, they're investing the energy, everything. It's there. And they could be doing something comparable at a public school or even a private school in the band. But we just happen to be doing something really exciting,
Right.
which is rock music.
And it's not just exciting, it's very, very in depth. It starts to get pretty deep. 1 hour
Yeah.
private lesson a week plus 1 to 2 hours of rehearsals every Saturday. I mean, eventually, and then if you do it, our retention average is 3.2 something years right now, between 6 and 22 years old for our students, and it's only a month by month program. There's no contracts. So because they stay that long, if you add 3 accredited years together of those systems that we've just described, you're going to have little musicians on your hands, not just, hey, we heard piano's good for their brain. And it is. That's awesome. Get your kids playing piano. Do what you got to do. But holy moly, if this is what they really want to do, you can pile it on, because these kids, we found that if you just keep raising the bar, they keep meeting it.
Well, we had a
We raised it so high, we had to get a PhD to come in because I couldn't raise the bar anymore.
last weekend at our show. I had the notion that you turn kids from students into peers, right? And you had called some of the students, they're now young adults, and they've actually become our peers. They've actually become so great at their instrument.
Well, I coined that from day one, when half my roster was better than me when they came to my little house with my studio. But I knew more about amps, and I knew just enough to keep them interested. But yeah,
Well, they say that if you have better systems, then your pupils can be much better than you. but you're helping them to implement.
Right. And then we all have our superpowers as well. So we try to help them find theirs and find those strengths as soon as possible.
So, Clint, we talked about reaching out, number one, choosing the category, the assessment report. Then we went into number 4, which is action plan. Number 5 sounds like connecting with the community and school districts. Is that right?
Yes. It's one thing to get the accreditation, but it's another thing to actually implement it and to make it work in your community. And I was just going to share that the best thing that happened, the biggest step was that AP music theory worked, and then we started the process of making everything else. That came out of a big mistake of mine, actually, and that was that the supplementary education program category at WASC does not allow an institution to get a school code. Well, you need that school code to get it to transfer to college.
That wasn't in the FAQ.
No, it was not, and I thought I asked that question, but apparently I didn't. It's all right. I learn by making mistakes.
They're still working on their systems.
How do you get that?
Well, what we did, that was why I reached out to the public schools. I had to figure out a way to make it work. So we can't get that school code. Let's see if we can use another school in the district's code. And I said, okay, I'm just going to
We even approached a couple private schools.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the most receptive, which I didn't expect, was the public school system. And they said, okay, yeah. And I think they're kind of, like, this guy who I reached out to, actually knew him from high school.
Yeah, that was weird.
We saw each other when we met, and we went, wait a minute, I know you.
Yeah, sure enough.
But it was really cool because we had really not similar stories, but we had both gone around the world and been places and had an interesting trajectory with music, and we kind of thought alike about a lot of things.
And folks, he's talking about our liaison to the school district for Capstone or Unified.
Yeah.
So,
you were talking about getting a school code as a part of that process.
Yeah, the code,
and that's so that way when you actually 4 credits, you have to have an actual code.
Go ahead.
Right. I mean, the overall theme I was going for here was just reach out and communicate with other educators. That has been the biggest resource through this process, has just been not being afraid to make mistakes and not being afraid of other educators and rejection, really.
Right.
Because it does happen. Being a private institution that wants to break into something that's rather codified and public, like accreditation.
Right. They're going to look at you and go, who are you? What do you do?
Exactly. But I just want to say to those private schools out there who are looking to do something like this, don't be intimidated. The world is changing very, very fast.
Yeah.
In fact,
it's a great opportunity.
There is a category.
I mean, our show is a lot of it's about, getting people to play more music somehow, some way, but it's also one way we do that is growing our businesses. So, and our schools, like you said, even the public schools are businesses. So if we grow our businesses, the more people we help, money's just a metaphor. I heard that from a really smart guy. And so the more people we help, the more money comes in. And music is such, in my opinion, art and music. It's just waiting, and technology is just allowing you to have a podcast, post amazing videos with good sound because of these connections to the cameras. You can get that out there and grow your business.
There's a big movement right now with regard to colleges and with regard to schools in general. The threat of technology, or the opportunity of technology, depending upon how you see it. You were kind of, I think, hinting at that these schools are really open these days. They're seeing all the different opportunities that are coming along, and they're more open maybe than they've ever been, at least some of them.
I mean, a lot of the people that I've talked about, Brandenburg, Anderson, they come into our school and they go, whoa. Like, they look around and they just go, what's going on here? And I think because public education has limited funding a lot of times. I'm finding this out. I didn't really know this before, but there's no science teacher, there's no PE teacher. The parents come in and do that stuff.
Right.
They need to do
one of our
funding
schools in the area didn't have enough money for winter drumline this year, and normally they have it, and it's just gone. And so a few of our drummers at Los Rios were like, "Can you guys do one?" And so there's always opportunities. You just got to learn and gel with your community. You'll hear things.
That's right.
So recently that was a big victory. Actually, having Principal Tyler officially use that cool stamp and officially have our student get their first credits. So talk to me a little bit about that victory and actually having someone, because this is just the first in many. So we've literally just had our very first student get credits. And since this is about accreditation, it's kind of our beginning to the whole process.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
It's a long process, and I celebrate it as a victory because it might not be the end of the road, but it is. It feels like it's possible, the whole thing now. And for me, that was kind of my big thing, is I wanted to teach AP music theory, and now I get to do that unrelentingly.
Yeah.
Right, Tyler?
Yes, whatever you want, Dr. Haycraft.
Tyler and I tried to sit in on it at first, but
No, I was just there to make sure you had support. I had no intention of finishing that class.
I did, but by class 4, I went, oh yeah, no.
Well, if you all know Chris Bates, you've been there before.
I have no idea what it is.
The ones who know him do. I hope you're on right now. So, you guys, we're gonna do. We're approaching 45 minutes right now. Do we want to do some closing points, or we could wrap this one up? It's going to be a little bit of a shorter podcast in the future for our listeners. We're trying to keep this thing between 55 and 65 minutes, somewhere in that range. But we are running low on video power, so I'd love to just wrap it up if you guys are good with that. Do you have any closing points?
There's one last thing I'd like to say, just to wrap it up and relate it to TeacherZone.com. I've mentioned along the way how easy that made this process of accreditation. It was both appealing to the accreditation board, that we had a good data collection system, as well as a robust fully integrated music learning system, which is what TeacherZone.com is. And also, I'll end with this. There is a category at WASC for online school, and I asked questions about it to see if TeacherZone.com would be suitable for that. But I got different answers from almost everybody I asked. It's still a wild west,
right?
Online.
We technically, that to an entrepreneur like Chris and I, and
That's
honestly,
exciting.
you're kind of an entrepreneur too, Clint. That just means we take it.
Right.
It's a great moment in time.
Everything great was all. Someone had to start it.
All of our schools.
So why don't you guys start it in your states?
everybody-
Let's all do it together.
That's right. Everybody that's with us, what's so exciting is that we're all sort of the most cutting edge. You know, there's a lot of late adopters that, a couple of years from now will finally follow, but all of us early adopters, it's an exciting time.
It is.
Yeah.
So, what TeacherZone is, they kind of raise an eyebrow at it and go, "What's that?" Because they don't really fully understand it. They understand normal schools, right? Schools in one state, but as soon as, Chris would always ask me, if we get accredited as the online version, is everybody who uses TeacherZone.com accredited? And I would ask that, and they'd be like,
Whoa,
right.
Sort of. No, I mean, essentially, it's that the students who use it get to enjoy an accredited system.
Right.
But the teachers, because it's geared towards teachers,
Right.
That's a different
Well,
story.
check it out.
They're in
Remember
a different
how
state.
they like their systems and their data? We have to create systems and data that connect it all.
Yeah.
So we start here, the accreditation, whatever, if that is even possible, as long as the data is extremely tracked, and then I don't know, over state to state lines, we'll have to figure that out when we get there. But if there's data, they feel safe. Bottom line, the kids are
But
safe,
if you don't,
the teachers
if
are
you don't
safe.
collect it, then you don't have it.
Right. So we'll figure that out. That's going to be. Stay tuned. We're going to get the Globe accredited.
It would be interesting to actually go
You just
through
want-
with the online
Tyler
accreditation
just wants a
to
new
see what
stamp.
You're in
happens.
Singapore? No problem.
Tyler just wants a Singapore stamp.
I want to go to Singapore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like a big air-conditioned shopping mall tunnel
I hate
system.
you.
Oh, you've been
Clint has
there.
been all
He's
over
been
the world.
everywhere.
He has a
It's
master's
nice.
degree from Zurich. He's been. Didn't you study down in Mexico City too? And yeah, I'm going to do that one day.
He got
Not study, though. I'm just going.
He got his second PhD down there.
Hey, by the way, fun fact: who was your dissertation? What did you write your dissertation about?
I wrote a piece of music that used "Surf's Up" by the Beach Boys as its source material.
Nice.
So it was essentially about Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys.
So do you like Brian Wilson?
I do.
Okay. Cool. What are a couple other guys that you love that have inspired you along your music journey? Besides the Muppet.
Whenever I'm asked
besides
that
the Muppet
question,
Show.
yeah, the Muppet Show, particularly
know.
Elton John on the Muppet Show. I really like that.
YouTube it.
Perfect.
Yeah, Yellow Brick Road.
All right.
It's
Anything
amazing.
else, Chris?
No, I think Clint, that's been really helpful. So Clint Clint gave us all basically, I think, the number one action item for anybody listening to this that wants to explore this opportunity.
And we're going to put it in the notes of the podcast
Yep.
at tzpodcast.com. So when you click on the episode, we'll make sure the notes are there for these 5 points, the book Chris brought up earlier,
Yep.
and anything else we could
You
put in
want
there.
to start by reaching out. You got to start by reaching out, and I think that's the first step. So very
Yeah.
cool. Thank
All
you.
right. Well,
Thank you.
until next week, this is the Teacher Zone with Chris and Tyler. If you want to reach out, it's podcast@teacherzone.com. And we are sponsored by teacherzone.com as well. So thank you so much for joining in. Facebook Live, we love you guys.
Thank you for listening, everybody.
And Dr.
Thank
Haycraft.
you, Dr. Haycraft.
Thank you
Thanks for
so
having
much,
me.
man. All right. Goodbye, everybody. How about a little music on the